First of all, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Bansal, Director of the India Foundation, my fellow panelists, Ambassador Krishnamurthy and Ambassador Hong Tong from Indonesia and Thailand. Sometimes when you speak last, you wonder, what are you going to speak? After all, I'm not a serving diplomat. I'm only a tired and retired one. So I thought, rather than speak, I will use the digital tools here. I see that not much is working there. But that said, so what did I do? I decided that rather than speak myself, if I have to speak last in this august company among all of you, what would all of you do? Can any of you tell me what would you do if you were to speak in this august company at the end? No, I won't summarize. I would go like young people to chat GPT. So I decided to go to chat GPT. And I decided to find out what this connectivity is all about. This, of course, is the map of ASEAN and India, where they are. But I thought, let me go to ChatGPT and find out what is connectivity. So look what ChatGPT told me. There it is. It talked of connectivity as communication between systems, devices, components, blah, 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 etc. This is the 21st century version of connectivity. It's very good. It's very comprehensive. It's not as philosophical as what Ambassador Krishnamurthy laid out, but it is a technically correct version of all how you can relate to connectivity. But there is one flaw in this. One flaw. Maybe there are more. But there is one flaw, and that is, it does not connect our histories. It connects our presents, it connects our futures, but for countries of the ASEAN and India, let us not forget that present is important, future is more important, but the 21st century is being built on connections of the last 20 centuries between ASEAN and India. And that is as important as the present and the future. And that's my first big point, that all of you are legatees of that civilizational connect between the countries of ASEAN and India, each one of us. Now, so I said, okay, let me just find out what is this symbols of connection. All of you are aware of the symbols of connection between India and ASEAN, Borobudur. You can repeat these in Thailand, in Myanmar, in Malaysia, in Indonesia, etc., etc. The one thing that you will remember is, when you go back from India, India leaves a mark on you. When you come to India, it leaves a mark on you. Either way, this is not about how these connections were set up, what was the thing, but there is a mark left on all of us. That happens in every country if you stay for long, if you engage, if there is a synthesis, there is a mark. And those are symbols of our synthesis and interaction. And these cultural remains have withstood the travails of time for hundreds of years. So there must be something in that has withstood the travails of this long gap of our thing. So I said, everybody says, oh, these Indians and ASEANs and all, they only talk about these things. So I said, let me go to some original Western sources, because nowadays West is the best. So we all look at Western sources. So I decided to go to the original Western source. I hope you have heard of Peripulus of the Erythraean Sea. This is a Greek source. This is what it said. It's translated also by a Westerner, Stamford Raffles. Look at what it says. In the year 525, that is 603 AD, a king of Gujarat. All of you have heard of the engagement between southern part of India or eastern coast of India and Southeast Asia. And it's normal because, as Ambassador Krishnamurti said, in some way we are very neighbors. The difference between India Point and the tip of Indonesia is nearer than the distance between Maldives and India. But look at this. There was a king of Gujarat who sent his ships. And if you don't believe the Western source, I said, okay, let me go. Here is a source of a photograph. It says this is of a Gujarati ship. It is from the Borobudur frieze. Ships of this type were included and they were interacting between Indonesia and India. This is 600 years ago. Western sources, friezes. We didn't manufacture it. This is the legacy of our engagement. It has stayed with us for centuries, and whatever you do and build, remember that our connect is more than the tertiary connected between you and me or others. And that's the big point I want you to take from here, that the India-ASEAN connections, the India-ASEAN connectivity is something that has gone for generations. We need to, as 21st century people, build on it. And that's my large, big point. We've talked about physical connectivity projects. And we've heard of the physical connectivity projects between India, Myanmar, Thailand. There is also another physical connectivity project called the Kaladan project. Now, please remember, I heard Mr. Bansal say that we hope that the trilateral highway will be ready next year. Let's all acknowledge physical connectivity is the most difficult. Because it is challenging, because the terrain is difficult, everything that happens impacts on physical connectivity projects. So by their nature, they are slow, they are difficult to undertake, they will not meet your time schedules, there will be delays. But let's not forget, 2,000 years of connect, a few years of delay is not the way to see it. At any given point in history, you will see and say, oh, it's not working. But in the longest arc of history, you will see, oh, this is what enabled. So please be understanding of the ground realities of this situation. Now, what does this physical connectivity mean? The ambassador of Thailand just mentioned that it would enhance people-to-people connectivity, it will enhance trade, etc. But she was very humble. She did not emphasize on one big thing. ASEAN, all of you in ASEAN are a star attraction in terms of economic growth globally, in terms of investment globally, in terms of wanting to engage globally. You are perhaps relatively the most stable region as a grouping. You are also a region which is very humble in its foreign policy. It is not like some of others who are a little bit of a union and then they say how much it is. ASEAN, my friends, is one of the most humble associations, and all of you need to be proud of it. That's why you have a rising middle class. You have some of the best and ways of using technology. You have high growth. You have everything. So if we are a neighbor, if the northeast of India doesn't have outlets, naturally it will look to you. When we have a neighborhood which is so good, we will look to you. So that's the attraction of ASEAN for our Northeast. It is landlocked. That adds to it. It will provide access to the sea for ASEAN. That's the additional point. But neighbors like you are rare. We have other neighbors elsewhere. I will not talk about them. But you know the problems with those neighbors. Now, you know also why we treasure you as our neighbors. Little bit on the India, Myanmar, Thailand trilateral highway. It started in 2002. It's approximately 1,400 kilometers. It links Moreh, as the ambassador of Thailand said, to Mae Sot in Thailand, and from there, elsewhere in Thailand. It's 1,400 kilometers, but about 70 bridges, I think. Much of the work is completed. The bridges reinforcement is still going on. And the three countries need to sort out, the hardware is getting ready, the software needs to be worked out. Because you may have the hardware ready, but without the software, try using a computer. It doesn't work. So the Motor Vehicles Act is something that we have to get in place. And if this works, the idea is that this can link to other places in the Southeast Asia. That is, as was told, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos. So it's our opening, physical opening to Southeast Asia. It's not that this has happened, that this is not possible, because we also had a car rally as way back as in 2004 on this similar track going ahead. But if you want heavy traffic, you have to get ready for it. There are delays, we acknowledge it, but don't look at it in the snapshot of history. Look at it in the big picture, what it will do for all of us. The next one, the Kaladan multimodal project. This is perhaps India's most challenging development project that we are taking up. It links Kolkata port with Sitwe in Myanmar. From there, there is a jetty for about 150 kilometers or so to Paletwa, and from there, there is a highway to the border with Mizoram, and further highway to Aizawl. It started in 2000, and I think it was signed in 2008. Its work started in 2010. It has had problems, largely of a human resources issue, because with that difficult situation, contractors have a difficulty in working there. So much of the work was done, but then the contractor couldn't fulfill his requirements. So they are now subcontracting it. And then all of us are aware that there are difficulties in the local situation there. And so law and order is a difficulty, and that has delayed this. But once this comes, again, you see the quest is always for a port. And that's the second important project which will link us and the northeast of India to a port. And that's why these two are important. There are other maritime connectivity was mentioned, linking of Andamans in India with Sabang in Indonesia. That's one of those goals. The other one is direct shipping lanes between India and Vietnam. This is an important thing because all of you know Vietnam is growing rapidly. We are plugged into the Vietnam's market, and therefore direct shipping lanes are an important thing, because don't forget, 60% of all trade is usually through the maritime route. And so we would like to get plugged into the fastest way. And finally, as was mentioned, the linkage between Chennai, Vizag, Krishnapatnam, Kolkata, and Ranong in Thailand. And that's, again, a maritime thing. So maritime connectivity efforts are physical connectivity. They are not as difficult as land, but then they are a work in progress. Finally, there is air connectivity. I will not deal with it, because some of the statistics that I got were based on the COVID era, when air connectivity has gone down. But yet, we need to have greater air connectivity, because right now, it's not with all ASEAN states. Thailand is booming, tourism is booming, Singapore works well. There are other places they are going, but we need more air connectivity. It's a work in progress. When I calculated for 2021, I forgot that COVID was there. How quickly time phases for old people like me. That time there were only 5,000 passenger flights, but that was a low period. Ambassador has just mentioned that 200 flights per week, we are getting back to normal. May I request our ASEAN friends, Indian tourists are going there. What about you? Time for you to see the world, young friends. And India is a world by itself, so please have a look at it. And as part of the plan of action for 2021-25, there is an air transport agreement that is being thought of. I want, when friends talk, we should not shy from difficult issues. So I will raise 2 issues. I will not go further down that thing, but they are issues. I know. I was like them before. They didn't raise this, and they will not. I wouldn't have raised it. But today, I'm a tired and retired diplomat, as I said. Old people can say what they want and get away with it. So this is what I'm saying, that there are challenges. We can discuss those. What are, in terms of connectivity, RCEP, the ASEAN is too nice and humble to say, but they feel that maybe India missed an opportunity. They may not be incorrect, but they need to understand our point of view too. And there is a point of view that says that yes, there are challenges for us today. We need more space and time. We will come back. And also, in negotiations, it's never winner take all. You have to gain some, you have to give some. I don't know whether the ASEAN was sagacious enough to give some to India. Obviously, Indians are very tough negotiators. So they will always, like Oliver Twist, say, I want some more. But it didn't work out. Keep that in mind. There are 2 sides to the coin. There is no 100% certainty in this. But it's an opportunity which we feel could have been handled better. Yes. The second one, again, I think we need to be cognizant of it. It's very nice to say that there are many convergences between India and ASEAN on Indo-Pacific issues. And that's true. There are many convergences. But, you know, I am no longer, again, as I said, sitting where you are. So I have the liberty of drawing up what are the objectives, what are the focus areas, and I find one word missing. Can any of you say what that one word is? You are very nice, you will not say. The word is security. That word is not in the conception. It's pretty clear in Indian conception that it is 1, 2, 3 times there. Look at the key objectives. You find in Indian conception 3 times. Deepening economic and security concept, strengthening maritime security capabilities, advancing peace and security. Look at the ASEAN key objectives. It's not there. So friends, just remember, there are issues. I will not raise it, except if any of you want to discuss. But as friends, we need to understand the challenges too. So keep that in mind as we go further. And my last point is that today, connectivity is no longer people to people, physical, maritime, but it transcends geography. And by that, what do I mean? You know, the world still remains interdependent. Trade is getting back to where it is, but it's a different type of trade. Trade in goods peaked around 2008. After that, there is trade in knowledge, trade in services, trade in know-how that is growing. And as Ambassador of Thailand said, digital connectivity is as important as other forms of connectivity. Look at this. This is a graph of how trade is moving. The red line is the line of digitally delivered services. The blue line is goods export. They all started to make it at zero. It was not that both are at zero, but just to equalize, they started at zero. You can see where trade of digital goods, digital services is moving, way ahead of trade of the conventional type. You are all in Hyderabad. Hyderabad, yes, has a history, but it is a boom town for digital startups today. Go down to the Telangana hub, T-hub. Look at it. It is booming as Kuala Lumpur is booming, or Jakarta is booming, or Thailand, Bangkok. It is very similar to where I last served as ambassador in New York. My house is there. I open the window, I see, this doesn't look like Hyderabad. I left Hyderabad 40 years ago, came back now, I became Rip Van Winkle. It's changed because digital connectivity is what is changing Hyderabad. Digital connectivity is what will change our relationship in very fundamental ways. And so, brick, mortar, people are important, but so are digital highways. You are young, you know better than me. I am just fiddling with digital connectivity. But please remember that India and ASEAN are both digital economies. The ASEAN digital economy, which is thriving, is about $150 billion. Indian one is slightly higher. The goal is, as was said, you can link fintech companies, you can link small and medium-sized enterprises, you can link many others who just have digital technology and nothing else. So you don't need brick, mortar, going through Moreh, reaching Bangkok, flying by air, etc. This is all you need. One digital connection with each other. And so the rise of startups in ASEAN is huge. The rise of startups in India is huge. But with them come their challenges. Nothing is free. So you have to start looking at the challenges of digital, which means cybersecurity, which means working on common digital interfaces, which means cyber norms, which means CBMs of a cyber nature. There are multiple areas that all of you have to work on. The future is bright, but you have miles to go. Connectivity is good, but it is not optimal. Our generation is over. It's your generation which has the opportunity to take it to the next level, so that 2,000 years later, people will remember not small things. We will remember the big things that all of you achieved. Thank you very much for giving me a patient hearing. You've been very kind. Thank you.